Hey guys, so this is a new what if that I uploaded alongside other three what ifs on my community. I didn't upload it, but I uploaded my thumbnail to it saying that it was gonna come out soon. Now guys, basically, since I've had over like the storm and everything, like 2 days off of school, plus I am slightly doing some moving with my parents and my family members or whatever. So basically, I'm really occupied with uploading my videos times and stuff like that. TikToks are easier to make because since I have a little bit of time to make edits with my phone and stuff like that. So basically, the TikTok page has been doing well. But basically, so far, basically, let's start. Now, basically, let's start with the whole entire origin of Deku or Zukumadoria. Now, guys, basically, I will be uploading at least two what ifs today or tonight, and one what if tomorrow, and at least another what if tomorrow. So at least at tops two what ifs tomorrow or three tonight. Now, basically, I'm at least going to try to upload at least four what ifs, because that's my upload time for my what ifs on the weekend or on the week. So basically, I'm gonna at least at the tops, guys. At least I'm going to try to make at least four what ifs for you guys, and in that week, at least trying to upload, and at least next week or next weekend, try to upload my stop motion. Now, I got the whole stop motion done, just need some voice actors. So if you guys want to be voice actors, go down, pretty much go to my TikTok page. Is Quentin Kane 0, no spaces or anything. Quentin Kane 0, no caps. Just pretty much Quentin Kane 0. Go on my YouTube page. Go on my TikTok page. Press it. Message me, and I'll message you back and ask you what character you want to voice act. Tell you what characters are opened, and then we can work it out. I can get your Insta or something or your phone number. You can send me voice clips or whatever, and bada bing bada boom, you're in the stop motion. I'll give credit to you in the credits of the stop motion, or just in the description, because the description will be a little bit easier. So yeah, and I won't be listing you by your real name, just be listing you by your social media name, like your Instagram or your TikTok or whatever. So let's get into it, guys. Now basically, we start our story off with Azuki Midoriya, or yeah, I'm not gonna change Deku's last name, but Deku will be born as Azuki Midoriya. Now before we get to Deku, let's move on to let's start with Deku's family life, or his mother in particular, Mystique. Now basically, we start our story off with Mystique. A couple of years after she gave birth to Kurt, and basically after she made things right with basically, what was it, Rogue. Now, Rogue and pretty much Nightcrawler are, kind of like brothers of some sorts, or like siblings. So they try to make things good with Mystique. Now, at this point, Kurt would be about still a teenager, and Rogue would be as well. Now, basically, pretty much Nightcrawler would have pretty much, well, for his mother, since in this universe, mutants actually are going to be pretty much the Earth's population is split into three equal percentages. The third percentage is mutants, the second percentage is quirk people, and the second percentage, or the first percentage, is humans. Now, humans are going slowly extinct because more humans over the days are giving birth to mutants or quirk people, even though if they have both ways, both of their parents are humans and don't have any special powers, they still are born with some sort of mutation or quirk. So basically, mutants are probably the most popular, pretty much, species or part of humanity in Japan, America, and Canada. Everywhere else, it's quirk people, or about 1% of mutants. Now, basically, for this to whole happen, basically mutants are gonna be pretty much the most majority of people in Japan, and also people in America. Now, basically, what I'm gonna be doing is that some people in UA are gonna be mutants, and their powers are actually gonna be unlimited, because quirks are weaker in terms of powers and weaknesses towards quirks. I mean, mutations or mutants. So, if you really put it in perspective, Ida's quirk would work way better if it was a mutation other than just a quirk. Because mutations aren't that, injuring to your body as quirks. So basically, mutations, when I turn a person in this, what if that originally had a quirk, pretty much a mutant, their power or the weakness of their power will be pretty much swapped for extra power or probably swapped for no weakness at all. Just their weaknesses, mutation or mutant curing bullets or whatever, but I'm not going to get into any mutations just yet. But yeah, so basically any type of quirk erasing quirk or bullets or anything like that that targets quirks will slightly pretty much weaken for a short amount of time, about probably like 10 minutes for mutation. For a person with a mutation or as a mutant, if they're hit with some sort of quirk erasing quirk or bullet, their power won't go away. It will just be weakened for a couple minutes. So they're pretty much immune to basically any type of quirk or attacking power or item. And pretty much, let's get into it, guys. Enough of the whole entire talking. If you want more answers about mutations and like how the government in this world happens with like the three type of, people in the world, just go in the comments, answer your questions, and let's get into it. Basically, we start the story off with Izuku Midoriya and his mother. Now, basically, we start off in a pretty much a very big mansion. Now, in this world, mutants are more popular than quirk people, but in other countries, quirk people are, more popular. But yeah, so basically, in Japan, the number one hero is All Might, and All Might does have a quirk. Now, basically, a couple other heroes do have quirks. Blah blah blah. Very much Endeavor and All Might are one of the many people in Japan's history that, or in Japan's pretty much pro heroes that have quirks, but pretty much 50% of everybody else in the hero lineup are mutants. So most of their weaknesses are kind of checked out or cut out from their power set. Now basically, we see Mystique. Now Mystique is actually the number 3 hero. So basically, guys, pretty much Daku would have been pretty much training his body. Pretty much. Sorry, guys, I got off topic. Now, basically, Mystique would be the number 3 hero. Now, basically, Mystique would have a lot of followers, a lot of people, pretty much supporting her because she would be a very popular hero. She would be so popular that she would overpower All Might in popularity, but still she would be ranked at the number 3 hero spot since she wasn't that powerful. So guys, basically, what would happen to Daku and pretty much, his family life after pretty much Mystique becomes the number 3 hero? Pretty much Mystique would have, made a family. She would have reconnected with Wolverine and also would have reconnected with Nightcrawler and Rogue. Now, she would also make Rogue and Nightcrawler actually, move in with her. And they, at this point, they would be like right when they're turning 13. Like, they would be both at the like preteens. Both of them would be preteens type of age. So basically, they would be pretty young, and they would move in with Mystique in this timeline on this universe. Mystique would have raised them like her children, like she is, and she would eventually adopt her other child, Raze or Roz, pretty much the child between her and Wolverine. She would have adopted her or him when he was a baby in this canon, and basically would have raised him alongside Rogue and Nightcrawler. And basically, Roz and Nightcrawler would have grown up being very, pretty much connected towards each other. Now, a point where all of the kids were about, let's say, 14, 15, or 16, basically, Mystique would have gotten pregnant with a certain man that she was pretty much engaged with, and this man would be Izuku's canon father, Asashi. Now, Asashi in this canon would have been born a mutant. Now, basically, he would be pretty much a mutant, but his grandfather would have been a quirk person as well. But since the quirk in his gene or his family was so died down over the years of his family marrying quirk people, mutants, basically Deku's quirk gene was kind of, very limited or very watered down to a point where it wasn't even existed. Now, basically, Deku would be born with a similar power set or mutation near his mother and also his other brothers or his siblings. Now, basically, we see Deku over the years being raised by his mother and being cared and being pretty much, well, was taught social skills and all sorts of other stuff by his brothers and his sister. Basically, them getting more, better and better. Now, I'm going to be adding in a extra child. About a year after Deku's born, Mystique gives birth to a second child. And that child is named, Azuki. Basically, Deku's sister, or other sister, would have actually been named, Izu, or Izu. No, I think. Yeah, Izu. That's how I'm gonna name her. Izu. Now, basically, Izzo would have been named Izzo, and she would actually be the pretty much half sister, half pretty much. She would be the son of Mystique, yes, and her powers would be very similar to Mystique's, but a little bit more watered down, and her power would be pretty much telepathy of sorts. Now, basically, this would be the child of basically a mix between basically Mystique and Mystique getting back, or pretty much after like a breaking out or a marriage problem with Deku's father. Basically, she would have had pretty much, what was it, kind of a running out, and basically she would find her way back to Deku's father, but basically she would find herself pregnant after a month or probably a couple months after getting back with Deku's father. Now, basically, she wanted to get back with Deku's father since she still loved him, but also she didn't want Deku to be raised without a father, like her other children, or some of her other children. And basically, Deku would have been raised with his sister, and not his half sister. Basically, this would be Deku's blood sister, but she would have more of a quirk more than a mutation. So basically, she would have more quirk similarities than mutation similarities. Now she would gain blue skin like her mother, but she would gain white hair and white eyes like her grandfather, on Deku's father's side. Now basically, Deku would also gain blue hair from his mother's skin, basically gaining aqua bright blue hair, but sometimes for some reason it would change to dark blue to light blue each day or each month, depending on how Deku's mutation changed then and there. Now Deku would also have a slight shape-shifting ability, but we're not gonna get into Deku's abilities just yet. Now after pretty much Deku's family was formed and basically Deku was raised, Deku was about, let's say, 12 when his mutation or his powers started kicking in. Now let's go over Deku's mutation or powers. Now basically Deku's mutation is something in between Mystique's and All Might's of sorts. Now basically Deku's powers will be comprised of multiple abilities that his brothers have. Now basically Deku would also gain a couple other abilities and also a very unique shape-shifting ability. Now basically Deku's power, he would have his base ability of his mother's, but a little bit more powered down. He would be able to shapeshift his skin and his eyes and multiple other stuff, but not his whole, ginger or body or shape. So he can't pull off the same shapeshifting crazy powers that Mystique can, like how Mystique can shapeshift and change where her organs go, and also can shapeshift how she looks on a molecular structure, and also be able to turn into a swarm of bats or birds, transform into a snake. And Deku can't, transform into something completely different from a humanoid creature. So Deku can only change small things or big things about his body without changing his whole anatomy or his bone structure, like his skin or his teeth, or pretty much his eyes, his hair, or even his pretty much breathing pattern, or can change pretty much certain parts of his body, like his breathing holes and stuff like that, or his nose or his nostrils, basically stuff like that, but without changing too much about his anatomy to a point where he doesn't look humanoid at all. So Deku can't change that much about his anatomy like Mystique can. Now, Deku also has a slight regeneration ability from his shapeshifting, so Deku can, have the same type of near immortality that Mystique has, like how Mystique can change her body and shape in her cells to not age or to just go back to being young after a certain time of years. So Deku has basically the base ability of Mystique, just she can't really do or pull off the same, super difficult or super, she just like super cool transformation Mystique can pull off. Like how Mystique can change her whole gender and stuff like that. Deku can't do that stuff. And basically, Deku has the base abilities just a little bit watered down of Mystique's powers, and that's already impressive as it is. But Deku also has a slight regeneration ability. Now, this isn't like Wolverine levels; it's just self healing, kind of like Spider-Man. So yeah, basically, Deku also has a slight. Deku also has increased stamina, agility, and speed and reflexes, kind of like a Mystique can, and is also very athletic like Mystique. Now, Deku also has a innate intelligence and also has a very, very strong, pretty much physical power, plus with his extra abilities. Now, Deku, from his father's side, Deku's father's abilities will be comprised of fire breathing, but basically, Deku would have a slight power because Deku's father's family tree will be very mixed up with mutations, mixed with quirks, mixed with a bunch of others. So it'd be very confusing on how, pretty much his parents wouldn't really know or calculate how much or power Deku would have. And Mystique even said it herself when she was pregnant with Deku that Deku might be more powerful than any of her children. Now, Deku would gain a type of teleportation. Now, Deku would still let me just list out the powers I already gave Deku. Deku would have basically the same powers as Mystique and the same, agility and everything as Mystique, just a little bit watered down in the shape shifting part. Deku would also have a slight regeneration, make self healing, and Deku would also have would be very smart, but that wouldn't really be a quirk. He would just be born smart. Now, basically, Deku would also have a second ability. His second ability would come from his father, and that would be pretty much fire teleporting or fire breathing. Now, basically, what would happen here? Deku's fire breathing would be very powerful. Now, Deku could transform his fire and pretty much transform his body into fire to teleport to other forms. Basically, Deku can transform his body to other forms of fire through the air. Basically, what I'm trying to say here is he can teleport, but not just on the whole entire, transform into other. Sorry guys, my throat got really sore. Basically, Deku can't teleport on the same level as Nightcrawler, but he can teleport on different sources of fire. So Deku, in theory, can teleport to the sun or teleport to certain places of fire, but he barely uses it because when Deku teleports to a source of fire, like a burning camp or some sort of fireplace or some sort of foraging area, Deku will teleport right on top of that fire. So it can be a small fire in like some sort of bucket or something. Deku will teleport inside of the bucket and the bucket will burst because Deku's molecules will expand on top of the flames, making himself pop out Ant-Man style and teleport on top of the flames. So Deku would teleport directly on top of the flames. Deku would be super lucky if he would teleport on top of some sort of stove or something like that so he can get off the flames pretty quickly. But yeah, so Deku, when he uses his teleportation of fire, he mainly gets very prepared to try to, use some sort of fire protection or something. But it's very random because Deku can land on his head, his knee, his legs, or even just on his feet sometimes on top of the fire. So it's very, random and how or like which stance he takes when he teleports to a source of fire. And when he teleports, he has to wait at least 3 seconds for his body to transform into complete blue flames and fly through the air, or pretty much disperse through the air and teleport him into another form of fire. Now, basically, Deku's teleportation is very powerful and can travel literally miles around the world, but not too much to a point where it can stretch to other countries or states. So Deku can't teleport that far, but can teleport pretty far enough. And it could be any type of fire. It just has to be fire, not just a source of heat, just straight up fire. So yeah, so basically, the teleportation is pretty powerful, but he'll barely be able to use it since he would have to teleport on top of flames, and he doesn't want to get burned, and he's not fireproof. So yeah, so Deku barely uses that power at all. Now basically, Deku would also have pretty much a slight super strength power. Now Deku would be, incredibly athletic, like Mystique, but also would have a slight super strength. Now, Deku's father had fire breathing, but Deku's great-great-grandfather on his father's side would have a type of super strength mutation. Now, basically, this mutation would give pretty much Deku a slight, and pretty much mix with Deku's shapeshifting gene from his mother. Now, Deku would have pretty much a type of separate form. Now, Deku, when he gets angry, his skin would turn completely blue and his eyes would turn completely yellow like Nightcrawler's or Hellboy's eyes. And basically, he would grow a demon-like tail, and pretty much his arms would pretty much become more bulkier and his body would become more bulkier. Kind of like near the same physique as Wolverine or pretty much Captain America, really muscular and athletic. Basically, him becoming about like a 2 inches taller, and basically him being as strong as basically, a super soldier basically. And basically, Deku would pretty much grow extra muscles, but by the point Deku would just get, if he was like built as the form that he takes on when he gets angry, or like when he tries to focus on his strength, Deku would just gain super soldier like serum type of super strength. So nothing like over Superman levels, just super soldier like Captain America or Winter Soldier type super soldier. Now basically, or like type of super strength. And Deku, basically, yeah, that's all of Deku's powers. Deku has a type of teleportation. Deku has basically all the powers and skills as Mystique, but also isn't able to transform into different, pretty much people that are different gingers as him, or transform into anything other than humanoid. So yeah, and Deku can also not pretty much regenerate on like super levels. He can just regenerate like self-healing type stuff. And Deku would also use his shapeshifting like his mother's in like human form, like making himself feel younger or older, something like that. Now basically, yeah, and Deku also has a type of super soldier type super strength when he focuses really hard or when he gets really angry. Now we got off of Deku's super strength and his powers. Now let's move on to Deku's family life. Now Deku would be mainly raised and mainly spend most of his time with his two brothers, Raz and Nightcrawler. Basically, he would have spent a lot of time with Raz and Nightcrawler, and over the time, Deku would kind of feel kind of left out. So some days Deku would just straight up just shapeshift his body to look like a lightish type aqua green type of skin tone. Basically just an aqua blue type skin tone, just a mix or to blend in with his brother's skin tones. And Deku sometimes, since Deku's the only time Deku uses, enhanced super soldier strength would be only when his skin turns completely like a dark green or like a dark blue. And pretty much with Deku transforms or shapeshifts his skin, he can do the dark blue, but he normally goes for the light aqua blue for his skin tone if he ever wanted to go, blue. So Deku does that for a majority of his life, to not try to feel left out with his brothers, and blah blah blah. Basically, Nightcrawler tells Deku that just be you. Don't try to be like us, and especially don't try to be like Raz. And basically, Raz was kind of a Bakugo in the family. He was very angry, and he also tried to encourage Deku to act on his rage, and to do whatever his impulses tell him to do. Now, Deku was kind of confused, but over time, his mother and Nightcrawler would teach him right to be, very kind. Or mainly Nightcrawler and his sister, or his other sister, not Rogue, and also Rogue, would actually teach him how to be nice. Now, Mystique would have teach Deku training, and also Roz would, and Nightcrawler would. And they would teach Deku multiple different training techniques. Deku would learn how to use a sword very well on mastery levels. Deku would also know a lot about athletics and agility and all this other stuff. Deku would also train his body And also, he would learn how to do combat training and skill and how to focus on his senses and move faster by rods. And over the time, his family became bigger. Not bigger, but became more as one. And Deku pretty much was super excited when the day finally came along for him to sign for UA. Now, he signed up for UA, but he had 10 months left for, training. Now, over the time, his whole life was just training. And basically, his whole life was just training because he trained most of all his life and was actually homeschooled with alongside his other siblings. So basically, yeah. So basically, Deku was homeschooled alongside his other siblings and basically would have lived at a very big mansion with his siblings. Basically, this would be Deku's house mansion. It would be a huge high-tech type mansion, like huge, and miles of, farming and everything else. Basically, they would have, then and there every month or like every couple of weeks, they would go out and a bunch of their, pretty much people or butlers would have cleaned up everything. They would have at least like 2 butlers in the house at all times. Basically, Deku would be raised very well as a child, and he would be semi-spoiled, but Deku would eventually, not been that smart since Mystique did teach them about, her childhood and how you shouldn't take things for granted and stuff like that. So they weren't really that, spoiled. Now, basically, Deku would be in his room one day about a month before the entry exams would start. And Deku would have been walked into his room. Basically, Roz would have asked him, do you want to go out? Pretty much, Deku saying, yeah, where do you want to go? Basically, him saying, I got a place. But we need to get, Kurt real quick. But don't say anything. And I'm telling you both that. Don't say anything to Mom, Rogue, or Izzy. Or Azugi. Azui? I don't really understand. Basically, Deku saying you don't even know your real sister's name. Basically him saying I don't care. Let's go. Basically, them, getting ready and sneaking out the house alongside Kurt. Kurt just teleporting them at the front door and into the place Roz is talking about. Now, Roz would take them to basically a abandoned type of place, pretty much saying, if you have anger, we're gonna come here to train. Basically, Roz actually using some of the money in his, account or his allowance to pimp out the place to make it look more like a training ground. So basically, Roz would have used a lot of money in his account to basically buy kind of a abandoned place and pimp it out, and make it into a training ground. And it used to be a training ground for other sports and football teams and stuff like that. And basically, it became pretty much stuff in pretty much Roz's name, not in the family name, but Roz's name. And basically, Roz would train and pretty much get ready for training. And they would have trained most of every day. And basically, they would go toe to toe, blow to blow with everybody. Pretty much them training their butts off each month, but mainly training Deku. And the day before, pretty much, or about a day before the week before, pretty much a week before the day of training or entry exams, basically, Deku was told by his brothers that they're going to be double tagging him or trying to jump him, and he has to fight both of them off to basically win. So they would go into the training ground and they would get ready. Now Deku would have gotten the fighting position, and Deku would be kind of in like a type of pretty much a dark blue version of his jumpsuit he wore or he's about to wear in canon to the entry exams. The same green jumpsuit, but just a darkish blue. And basically with him wearing like a dark blue version of his red shoes and fingerless dark blue gloves. And basically he would pop the collar off of the sweatsuit. And basically they would have gotten ready. They would have charged at Deku, and Deku would have dodged both of their attacks, him using their strength against them pretty much getting bumped into each other, and Deku pretty much pulling a whole entire Goku type of, using your strength against you type move, basically just making them hit each other over and over, and Deku barely taking any punches. Eventually, Roz would get sick and tired of it and would tugging out his claws, not trying to play nice with his sibling anymore. basically just starting to pretty much cut and slash towards Deku. Deku would have gotten some slashes and some cuts into his stomach and his back, and pretty much Nightcrawler or Carrot would have seen this going a little bit overboard, and basically Carrot would try to stop Roz. But Roz was said we're trying to train him in a real fight. Villains don't let you just get away. Basically, at this point in life, I didn't explain this later on, but at this point, Roz and Nightcrawler would be about like 19 or 20. And pretty much all of his family members would be about like 19, 18, or 20. Now basically, Deku would be about 16. So basically, Deku's family members were like right on their, end of graduating their, pretty much Hero Academy, and pretty much Roz was like the only one in the family that actually already is a pro hero. And basically, now Roz and Nightcrawler are the only two people in the family that already have passed, got their license and everything, and they're already pro heroes. Now basically, Roz and Nightcrawler would have gone back to fighting Deku, and Deku and Roz would have gone back to fighting. Now they would have gone back and forth, just straight up, and eventually Deku would have gotten overpowered by Roz and Nightcrawler. But Deku would use his shifting abilities or his teleportation to teleport on top of the roof, where a slight miniature fire started by the sun and some sort of bird's nest was on top. Now basically Deku would have stomped out the bird's nest and would have kicked the bird, trying not to make too much noise because the bird would squeak its head off if it saw just a person teleport on top of his nest that was on fire. Now basically Deku would have, perched there and would have jumped down, pretty much sneaking back into the pretty much place, them being kind of confused, and Deku throwing a lighter and making a whole type of ring of fire around them. They would try to stomp it out, knowing about Deku's abilities, but Deku teleporting right behind Nightcrawler, grabbing him and teleporting him back outside, where the rest of the fire, like a slight burn of fire, a couple miles away at some sort of forest, and pretty much would have jumped or pretty much just dropped his brother off there, and would have teleport right back to Roz, drop kicking him into the ground out of the pretty much him teleporting right on top of the ring of fire, him drop kicking Roz into a bunch of weights that are around, and pretty much knocking out Roz and pretty much keeping Nightcrawler at bay since Nightcrawler didn't know where he was at. Now Nightcrawler would teleport a couple minutes later back at the training base, seeing that Roz and pretty much Deku were gone, and Roz just came back to the house, him using his slight of regeneration, or pretty much some of his powers to regenerate from some of the pretty much damage he took from the battle. Now I do not know if Nightcrawler or Roz has regeneration from his father, but basically if he doesn't, he does now. So yeah, so basically we continue off the next week when Deku and his two brothers and also Mystique, well not his two brothers because pretty much his two sisters actually drive him to pretty much the entrance exams alongside Izzy, and basically Deku's sister. Now, basically, they're both actually signing up for UA since they're about the same age. Deku's just a little bit older. So Deku's about 16, she's about 15. Basically, they both sign up for UA, and pretty much Rogue and Nightcrawler actually drive them to the training exhibit. Now, pretty much Roz calls Deku, congratulating him, or pretty much giving him some motivation to try his hardest. Now, basically, let's get started. Now, basically, Deku and his sister would have gone to the training exam and would have gotten started. Now they would have gotten started, and basically Deku would have bumped into pretty much a blue-haired girl. Now he would have talked to her. Deku pretty much getting told by his sister to stop flirting with her, pretty much grabbing Deku by the arm and swinging him towards pretty much the main room. They would have done their written exams, and Deku and his sister would have done perfectly since they were trained and also mentally trained by his mother because their mother was pretty smart. And basically, they would have done really well on the written exam. They would have gotten pretty much instructions about the whole entire physical part of the exam and how to use your quirks and how how heroic you can be. And basically, that's how they started. Now, basically, they would have been quiet, meaning that Ida wouldn't really be talking to them, or would have really been a little teacher's pet. Now, basically, Deku and his sister would have started. Now, Deku would have dished his sister, Deku running off, and basically him pretty much running around left and right, and pretty much staying back and forth around the train. So basically, Deku would have started to run around and trying to dodge more attacks and robots, and pretty much spinning around them and using his enhanced superhuman strength by getting hit one time and him getting a little bit angry, and Deku getting back up using his superhuman or super soldier strength, basically grabbing shards of metal off of broken robots from other people, basically throwing them Captain America's shield style towards other robots, impelling them left and right and taking more points as he goes. Eventually, he would come across a 0 point robot, and at that point, Deku would already have enough points to pass. Deku was about to leave, but all he needed is one more point for, a whole entire hero point. But basically, Deku didn't know that, so Deku was keep on running, but when he heard a girl screaming, Deku looked back, and he saw the same girl from the beginning that Deku's sister told him not to flirt with anymore. Deku would have sprinted towards her and basically would have seen a fire starting towards her, put some gasoline, and pretty much some sparks that were coming off from the robot a little bit. Now Deku would have seen a fire pretty much forming right next to a Chaku, and saw that he in this canon Deku was way more farther than he was originally. So Deku teleported right on the top of the fire that was starting, just taking a wild guess and pretty much jumping on top of the fire, taking a nap before it actually became a real fire, and Deku using his superhuman strength to pretty much push the rebel off of a Chaku, the Mego Chaku, have enough space to run off. Deku would have dropped the rebel there and was about to get stumped on by the 0 point robot. Deku would jump out of the way as far as possible, not getting able enough, him just hoping and praying that it was on fire on the battlefield, and him trying to pretty much just teleporting. And when Deku teleports, he doesn't know if it's a fire. If he doesn't see a fire, he just takes a chance and pretty much hopes that the closest fire towards him, that's where he teleports to. Or if he sees a fire, he teleports to that fire. But if he doesn't see it, he teleports to a random fire that's close to him. Deku teleports to a fire about a couple feet away on the other side of the pretty much fake city that was started by somebody with a fire quirk that shot down or burned a 0 pointer, that burned a 1 pointer. Now Deku would teleport on top of the robot, pretty much stomping out the flames on top of the robot and grabbing some of the robot's middle shards and folding it into some sort of, cube type shield of some sorts, and him running around throwing it left and right, Captain America style, making it ricochet off the concrete on top of robots, and him just eventually just throwing it into a robot and not coming out, but him not really caring, and him just running past it. And Deku would have ran past it more and more, and eventually the siren would have gone off. And basically would be told that pretty much they're done. Deku would have gone back home with his sister, and his sister would have done pretty well. And basically, I don't think I said that much about Deku's sister's powers. Deku's sister actually has the same exact, like Water Down, like the same exact power as Mystique, like Deku, but just she can transform or shapeshift way more than Mystique can actually do. So she can shapeshift her body into transform into different beings. She can literally change her molecules to a point where she can change her mutation into a quirk, or straight up just make herself into another being. So she can shapeshift into basically anything she wants. Her shapeshifting is literally reality warping on her body. So it's like super OP. Also, she has a very, very, very weak source of telekinesis and pretty much telepathy. Now, she can read people's thoughts, but only for about 10 minutes at a time at a day. So yeah, she only spend like a 1 minute on a person's mind reading if she wants to save some time on mind reading. She has to wait every day for 10 minutes of mind reading. And also for her telekinesis, she can only push items away from her about 6 feet. So yeah, and that also includes people as well, but it's very weak. So if a person has a very good stance against her, they can, pretty much, brush off the air or like the force that pushes other people or other things away from her. Now basically, Basically, her main power is shapeshifting. She can shapeshift kind of like Martian Manhunter. Like, she can shapeshift her molecules to phase through objects and stuff like that. And basically, Deku does have a potential to do that, but he can't do it just like nonchalantly. Like, his pretty much sister. Basically, she has the same type of shapeshifting abilities as, well, Martian Manhunter and Mystique combined. So she's pretty OP in shapeshifting now. In shapeshifting. So yeah. So basically, what would happen for Deku and his sister? Basically, they would have gotten into UA, and they would have actually tied because they would have the same equal amount of scores, and they would get the highest. And basically, for basically the next day or next couple days, I don't know how long the time is stretched between the note and everything. They go back or they get dropped off by their mother on the way there because their mother pretty much had some sort of crime or some sort of meeting with some pro heroes to attend to, and it was near UA, so she dropped off them at UA. It said, "We have a nice day, and don't let anybody label you as, well, that one kid." Basically, them just basically Mystique driving off after she dropped off her kids. Now, Deku and her sister, or I might just call her or Azuki. Yeah, Azuki. Yeah, I said her name was Azuki before. Yeah, Azuki. And basically, Azuki and Deku would have walked into UA, and basically they would have gone into the Class 1A room. Now, basically, Deku would have walked in there, and we would have seen pretty much Deku meet with some eyes, pretty much doing some, handshaking then and there with some of his classmates, and just doing, stuff like that. So basically, what would happen at that point? Deku would have, well, pretty much gone to Class 1A with his whole entire fit on, just his arms sleeked up, pretty much wearing it like a cool boy. Basically, him walking in there, sitting down right in front of Bakugo, or sitting down near Bakugo, and Bakugo not recognizing him since Bakugo never saw Deku. Now, Deku and pretty much the rest of the class would have stayed quiet, talking a little bit, chatting a little bit, and pretty much Ochako would have thanked Deku for saving her, blah blah blah. And basically, we would have seen Ozawa, show up the class and pretty much explain to the class that they're doing quick assessments and get off your lazy bums and go outside now before I have to, well, kick you out. And basically, they go outside and Deku showed the ball first to get the highest score, or his sister and him got the highest score. Deku grabs the ball and chucks it as hard as he can, getting a pretty good score. Now, Deku getting about the same score as Bakugo, but a couple more feet. Basically, for pretty much Ochaku, for Azuki grabs the ball using her shape-shifting to make her arm a lot more muscular, kind of like All Might type arm, and throws it pretty far, basically getting the same score as Deku, but like an inch farther. And basically, for basically the long jump, Deku aces it because he has pretty, enhanced athletics, and also is already super athletic plus the super soldier strength and agility he has makes him like Spider-Man levels and Daredevil type Captain America levels of agility. Now for Azuki, she uses her slight telekinesis to push herself away from the floor, making herself slightly glide or super jump off the ground. Now for the race, Deku gets a pretty good score, about third place. Azuki gets fourth place. Now Azuki actually gets second place because she uses her shapeshifting abilities to pretty much will shapeshift her legs into kind of like Roadrunner or giant super like muscular legs to make herself way more faster. Basically, for the grip test rank, Deku gets about second place, Dual Arms gets first place, and Azuki gets about like third place. So basically, yeah. So that's the score. Deku and Azuki gets the best score, and Bakugo gets kind of angry that this new kid out of nowhere is like outbesting them. But basically, Deku turns around and basically his shape shifting goes out of his shape shifting kind of acts up a little bit, making his eyes turn yellow. Now basically, Deku pretty much Bakugo recognizes this and recognizes Azuki's blue skin and Deku's pretty much blue hair and yellowish eyes. And I never really specified what Deku's colored eyes is. Deku's eyes change in and there, but they're normally at least like a really dark blue or straight up just straight up a blank yellow. So yeah, so basically Deku pretty much just walks past Bakugo, and Bakugo kicks Deku, and Deku says, "What are you doing?" Basically, him getting kind of angry, and his skin turning dark blue. Basically, Bakugo saying, "I knew it. You're Mystique's son. You're Mystique's son, aren't you?" Basically, pretty much everybody going off saying, "You're the number 3 hero's son." Oh my gosh, blah blah blah. Just pretty them saying, "You're the number 3 hero's children." Oh, that's so cool. Blah blah blah. Pretty much them making a whole entire type crowd around them. Now Deku tells them to back up. Basically, Azuki grabbing Deku bridal style, saying, "We gotta go." Basically, her transforming her back into a pair of angel wings, her flying off towards their house. They would have flew to the house, but pretty much Azuki would have known that deck was a little bit too heavy, and then basically they would crash, or pretty much they would fall through an open window in Roz's room, basically falling on top of one of his pretty much chairs, basically breaking it, and basically them getting up, and Roz being in his room, pretty much reading a book, pretty much saying, "What are you guys doing?" Basically, him saying, "What are you doing here?" Basically, Roz saying, "I have the day off. What are you doing?" Basically, they say that, well, school ended and also we had to get away because of paparazzi and also some kid, Bakugo, pretty much called us out saying that we're the kids of, the number 3 hero, Mystique. Basically, Roz saying, "Whatever, just get out of my room before I call mom." Basically, they, run out of Roz's room, and Roz goes back to whatever he was doing. He sure wasn't reading no book. But yeah, so basically, Deku, he gets switched to pretty much Kurt eating some food in the living room, and basically we see Kurt after eating food. He goes back down the hallways, hearing pretty much Deku listening to some music and also working on something. And pretty much Nightcrawler opens the door saying, "It's kind of getting a little bit late. I might want to go to sleep now." Basically, Deku saying, "Yeah, I know." Basically, him grabbing some stuff, pretty much saying, "I'm just working on a little bit of a project of sorts." Basically, Nightcrawler saying, "What are you working on?" Basically, him looking at some sort of knife of some sorts. "Is that Mother's blade?" Basically, Deku saying, "Yeah, Mother gave it to me on my 13th birthday, and pretty much said that it was an ancient weapon of sorts that she picked up when she was near the Japan era or whatever." Basically, Nightcrawler says, "Wow, it's very, relic-y." And basically Deku saying, "Yeah, but I don't know what metal is made out of. I accidentally hit it across concrete, and it made a whole entire knife, like cutting through butter into concrete. I don't even know what it's made of. But each time I try to sharpen it, the sharpener breaks, but it keeps on staying completely sharp. Like nothing I do to it can bend it, break it, or anything." Nightcrawler says it's probably some sort of ancient metal. Mom's a very, mysterious person. It's in her name. And basically, Deku saying, "Yeah, whatever." Pretty much him saying, "I might incorporate this into my hero costume." And basically, Nightcrawler says, don't copy me or Roz's hero costumes. It's not gonna look good on you. Just do something iconic like Rogue. And yeah, basically Deku saying, "Yeah, I might do something iconic like that." And basically, guys, this is where I'm gonna leave it off. Hey guys, so basically, I want to ask you at least 2 questions before I end off the video. Now, guys, first of all, what if do you want to see next? It's close tie between what if Duke Thomas from the Bat Family, or the newest member of the Bat Family, was in Young Justice, or what if what if Robin had One for All part 1. And basically, yeah. Basically, I might actually do part 2 to What If Robin. Yeah, I think I did, part 3 to What If Robin was a vampire. But yeah, so basically, yeah. So guys, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys like and subscribe. And also, guys, go down in the comments, send me a link or anything to a couple pictures or videos or pretty much anything do you think Deku would look the best in a hero costume inspired by Mystique or any type of X-Men character. So yeah, so see you guys later, bye, and deuces. Have a blessed day. Sorry. Also have a blessed day. Sorry, I forgot about that.